So WWJD, what would Jesus do? So if we ever get to that point where we get log jammed or we get a mental block of what should we be doing in life? Are we doing what we're supposed to be doing? What would Jesus do? That's been a saying for like ever. I mean, for decades. WWJD used to be on the little friendship bracelets, used to be on t-shirts. It was a real heck of a marketing technique because they sold so many of those bracelets, so many merchandising with WWJD on. I mean, I don't even know who owns that really. I guess it's trademarked by somebody, but in essence, WWJD, what would Jesus do? Stop and think. Anytime you're on the fence about anything in life, what would Jesus do? A lot of times we do that whenever we're younger, but as we get older, I think the what would Jesus do thing it gets a little bit more complicated, right? Because when we're young, we think of Jesus as the person that died on the cross, 33-year-old, right? So, I mean, okay, so you got a little bit of age on me. So if I'm a teenager, I can think about what would Jesus do because Jesus was a teenager before, you know? What would Jesus do in regards to right and wrong, with friends, relationships, things that I should do, things that I shouldn't do. But it gets a little interesting as you get older because once you get into the middle ages, you start having kids, grandkids, you start having real world problems. And it's kind of hard for us. And I think we need to step back and not just be so literal with WWJD because, somebody that's going to be devil's advocate is going to say, I mean, why would you ask Jesus what would he do if you got kids? Jesus never had kids, right? Jesus was never married. Jesus never had to deal with marital problems. And Jesus never had to deal with kids, going astray or kids rebelling, things like that. Jesus didn't have to worry about people at work. He didn't have to worry about stress factors or anything like that. But I think we need to think about what would Jesus do as far as spiritually. Jesus would turn the other cheek. Jesus would pray. Jesus would not hold people to so high of a bar. So that way, they have no chance with you. Jesus would not, get on his religious high horse. Jesus would preach, but Jesus was still accepting. So, I mean, I think we need to take some of those the nucleus of all this. When we talk about what would Jesus do, I think Jesus would just love. Jesus would be tolerant. Jesus would be accepted. Now, of course, Jesus is a human being. Jesus is going to get upset and frustrated, but I think overall in the grand scheme of things, what would Jesus do? Jesus would be patient. Jesus would be kind. Jesus would do his best to make others and to understand that bringing others along is the whole thing. We're trying to save souls here, right? It's not always going to happen on the first try. And I think we need to think about that whenever we deal with real people in our lives. What would Jesus do, right? When it comes to love, love thy neighbor. Love thy neighbor as you love thyself. Love thy neighbor as you would want to be loved. So anytime we think about loving somebody and being loved, we need to be more like Jesus. Jesus seemed like a lovable character, don't you think? You'd agree to that, right? So if we were more like Jesus, then I think we'd be a little bit more loved. If we would be more like Jesus, then people would be a little bit more tolerant of us. If we would be more like Jesus, people would probably respect us more, right? But I think it all comes back down to this is like setting an example and being an example. And if you don't have one, using Jesus as the example that God sent down to us to be able to think about what we should do, how we should live our lives to get that response that we want from other people and to live a life of love.